Picture this. It's Tuesday morning. You're in line at Starbucks on Fifth Avenue. You order a venti, oat milk, 2 pumps of vanilla. The usual overpriced fuel to get you through the grind. You tap your phone to pay. Beep. Declined. You try again. Beep. Declined. You check your bank app. You have $5,000 in your checking account. You aren't broke. But then a notification pops up on your screen. It's not from your bank. It's from the Federal Reserve app. It reads, "Purchase denied. You have exceeded your weekly carbon allowance for dairy products. Please try a soy-based alternative or wait until next month." Sounds like a conspiracy theory? Sounds like science fiction? Ladies and gentlemen, that technology isn't coming. It is already here. It's sitting in the sandbox environments of 114 central banks, representing 95% of global GDP. They don't call it the freedom killer. They call it CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. And they have a project designed to connect it all together globally. It's called Project Icebreaker. Today, on Next Gen Finance, we are going to look into the eyes of the villain. We aren't talking about market crashes or inflation today. We are talking about the end of private property as you know it. We are talking about the difference between money that is yours and money that the government allows you to hold. Buckle up. It's going to get dark before it gets bright. Most people, and I mean smart people, your doctors, your lawyers, think we already have digital money. You look at your Wells Fargo app, you see numbers, you Venmo your friend for pizza. You haven't touched a physical dollar bill since 2019. So you ask, what's the big deal? Why is a CBDC different from the digital dollars I use every day? Here is the difference. And this is the most important thing you will learn this year. Right now, when you have money in Chase or Bank of America, that is a liability of the commercial bank. It is private money. If you want to buy a stake, a gun, or a donation to a political party that the president hates, the bank facilitates it. Sure, they can freeze you, but it's a legal process. It's slow. There are courts. A CBDC is a liability of the Federal Reserve. It is a direct line between you and the government. In a CBDC world, there is no account. There is just a digital wallet address that the government has root access to. The general manager of the BIS, Bank for International Settlements, basically the central bank of central banks, Agustin Carstens, said the quiet part out loud. He said, "We don't know who's using a $100 bill today, but with CBDC, we will have absolute control over the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. Absolute control." His words, not mine. Absolute control. That doesn't sound very American, does it? That sounds like something out of a dystopian novel written by a guy who hated fun. Currently, money is a bearer instrument. It represents value. CBDC is not a bearer instrument. It represents permission. The danger isn't just surveillance. We already have surveillance. The NSA probably knows what you had for breakfast. The danger is programmability. This is the feature that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Because CBDCs are code, they can be programmed with if-then logic. If the economy is slow, then apply negative interest rates. Your money shrinks if you don't spend it. If citizen score is low, then restrict travel purchases. If user is located in a specific zip code, then increase sales tax. Let's put this in an American context. Imagine the government wants to stimulate the economy. They send you a stimulus check in CBDC. Great, right? Free money. But there is a catch. This money has an expiration date. Use it within 30 days or it disappears. You can't save it for your kid's college. You can't invest it. You must consume. You become a hamster on a wheel that the Fed controls the speed of. This isn't theoretical. China's digital yuan has already tested expiration dates on money given away in lotteries. If you didn't spend it, it vanished. Poof. Gone. And in the UK, the Bank of England has explicitly discussed the technical capability to restrict what people can buy with digital pounds. Now, imagine this politically. You live in a red state. Maybe a blue administration decides that buying ammunition or donating to certain religious groups is high risk and blocks the transaction. You live in a blue state? Maybe a red administration decides that donating to Planned Parenthood is illegal and geofences your wallet. This isn't about left versus right. This is about state versus individual. It turns your money into a behavior modification tool. It's like training a dog with treats, except you are the dog and the treat is your own salary. But next gen, you say, I'll just move my money overseas. Enter Project Icebreaker. This is a real pilot program run by the BIS involving the central banks of Israel, Norway, and Sweden. The goal? To connect all these domestic CBDCs into a single global icebreaker hub. Right now, moving money internationally is hard. It's clunky. Project Icebreaker makes it instant, which sounds convenient, but it also creates a global surveillance grid. If every central bank is connected to the hub, there is no escape. You can't fly to Switzerland and open a secret account. The Swiss digital franc will talk to the US digital dollar, and they will swap your data faster than you can say tax evasion. Under the Bank Secrecy Act, transactions over $10,000 are flagged. In a CBDC world, the threshold is effectively zero. Every single transaction, down to the 50-cent pack of gum, is a data point. This data can be cross-referenced with your location, your health records, and your internet search history. This is the panopticon, a prison design where the guard can see into every cell, but the prisoners can't see the guard. You never know if you are being watched, so you have to act like you are always being watched. That is the psychological toll of CBDCs. You stop donating to the controversial cause. You stop buying the wrong books. You self-censor. Freedom dies not with a bang, but with a software update. To make this system work, they have to do one thing first. Kill cash. Cash is the enemy of the CBDC. Why? Because cash is private. It's peer-to-peer. It leaves no trace. If I hand you a $20 bill for mowing my lawn, Larry Fink doesn't know. The Fed doesn't know. The IRS doesn't know. That drives them crazy. So, you will see the narrative ramp up. Cash is dirty. Cash is for drug dealers. Cash spreads viruses. Cash is inconvenient. They will make it expensive to use cash. ATM fees will go up. Limits on cash withdrawals will go down. In Europe, some countries have already made it illegal to pay more than 1,000 euros in cash. In the US, they will try to lower the reporting threshold. They aren't removing cash because they want to help you. They are removing it because it is the last escape hatch before they lock the digital doors. Okay, take a deep breath. I know. That was terrifying. I promised you I would tell you the truth, and the truth is heavy. But I also promised you a solution. If the villain is centralized, programmable, surveilled money, then the hero must be decentralized, immutable, private money. This is why Bitcoin exists. I'm not talking about crypto in the sense of gambling on dog coins. I'm talking about the invention of digital scarcity that no government controls. Bitcoin is the anti-CBDC. CBDC is inflationary. They print more whenever they want. Bitcoin is deflationary and fixed. 21 million? Math, physics, unchangeable. CBDC is permissioned. You need permission to spend. Bitcoin is permissionless. No one can stop you. CBDC is surveillance. Bitcoin is pseudonymity. The Stoic philosophers, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, taught us to focus on what we can control. You cannot control the Federal Reserve. You cannot control Project Icebreaker, but you can control where you store your life energy. Holding Bitcoin or gold or self-custodied assets is not just an investment strategy. It is a vote. It is a vote against the surveillance state. It is a vote for the Fourth Amendment. When you hold your own keys, you become your own bank. You are opting out of the digital prison. You are building a parallel system. And the beauty is, they can build their CBDC. They can launch their icebreaker. But if enough people simply refuse to use it and stay in the parallel system, their power evaporates. Money requires network effect. If we, the people, decide that programmable money is garbage money, then it fails. In Nigeria, the government launched the Naira CBDC and tried to force people to use it by limiting cash. The people revolted. They turned to Bitcoin and stablecoins instead. The adoption rate of the Naira was less than 0.5%. The people voted with their wallets, and the government lost. That is the American spirit. We don't like being told what to do. So here is the bottom line. The future is going to be a battle between panopticon money and freedom money. Project Icebreaker is coming. The tech is ready. The narrative is being written. But the ending of the movie hasn't been shot yet. That part is up to us. You don't have to be a victim of the future. You can be an architect of it. Educate yourself. Understand self-custody. Understand why privacy matters. Not because you have something to hide, but because you have something to protect. If you want to be part of the resistance, the financial freedom resistance, make sure you destroy that subscribe button like the Fed destroys the purchasing power of the dollar. Turn on notifications so Big Brother knows you're watching him. Drop a comment below. Would you accept a CBDC stimulus check if it meant the government could track every penny? Yes or no? I want to see where you stand. I am not a financial advisor, and this is not investment advice. I'm just a guy who reads the terms and conditions that everyone else scrolls past. Do your own research. We will continue the conversation right here on Next Gen Finance in the next videos.